Um, Thanks a lot, Apu. It was a really in-depth insight on the topic that I have asked you, right? And trust me, the issue that you said, that staying at the top of the mind of the graduates or even first year, second year, third year students, that's a wonderful strategy that you're following. And I guess these are the things that the students will never get in the books, all right? So yeah, that's really, really good. Now, on this regard, I would just like to know that regarding the strategies for first year, second year, so freelancing opportunities, can you just enlighten me where students can go and find this out, find this opportunity out? Like, I'm not sure whether all the students, especially first year, second year, because the university is closed now, so maybe some of them would like to work on the freelancing working opportunities. So, is it possible for you to give me some idea about the freelancing work and where they would go to apply for that opportunity?
Now, of course, I mean, first of all, like I mentioned, that there are various platforms, to be honest, right? Various programs. Um, you would have to first know what we offer and then decide what suits you best. Okay, but namely, if I tell you what are the major programs we have, so one is definitely Sparks, which is our campus ambassador program, which is basically nothing but being that connecting bridge between your university and the organization. Okay, so helping us land certain interventions at your campuses. It's a great exposure because you give us your time and effort. In the same time, we give our time and effort in building certain skills, giving you some empowerment to run some citing projects at campus, so that kind of a thing. Okay, so that's one intervention we have. At the same time, what's equally popular is BizLearner. BizLearner is our freelancing program. This is basically for second and third year students who have some bit of experience in terms of how the corporate world works, but has not done any specific internship, so to say, because for most universities, your internship requirement starts at the in your final year after you have completed all your courses, right? So for those bunch of people who are willing to get a little bit of insight into corporate world even before they finish their final year, BizLearner is a perfect opportunity. Okay, it's a freelancing program. Generally, we post certain projects or maybe a live activation or maybe a day-to-day work that we need someone to be doing for maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So it's very fluid in the sense that the timing or how many hours you contribute, what's the duration of the project, all of those are actually decided in conversation with the candidate itself. So we give them that flexibility because we also understand that your students, you'll have full-time classes, so to say. So the agreement is done in that sort that if you're a biz learner, if you want to apply for a particular project and you can only give us maybe 5 hours a week, we go into an agreement accordingly. If you have classes 2 days a week, we'll say, okay, you don't need to give us any time during those two days. Maybe you can just give us 6 hours a week, whichever day you want. So it's very flexible in that sense. It gives you enough opportunity to sort of balance your university work as well as the project that you're signing up for. So that's how BizLearner necessarily works. On the other hand, the ULEAP program, which is our Unilever Leadership Internship Program, that is more time bound. It's a 3-month program and it's a full-time program, and it's expected that only graduates apply so that you have full capacity to spare when it comes to doing the internship. Okay, so it's 3 months of dedicated internship. Okay, but even during that, we give a lot of flexibility. If you maybe have a course left which you want to concentrate on, the flexibility is always going to be there. We don't really monitor who's coming into work. And now with the whole new normal, there is no workplace. You'll be working virtually. As long as the work gets done, we don't ever monitor who's clocking in 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. Okay, that we never do. For our employees, for other interns as well. It applies for everyone. As for where you get to see these sort of opportunities, I would say the single most platform that we absolutely leverage on is our careers page. So do stay tuned to that. I mean, all kinds of important communication we do through that. We have a chatbot in our careers page, which will give you a complete rundown of whatever opportunities we have. So if you go and message the careers page, there's a chatbot to help you out and gives you a rundown of what are the opportunities available for second year, third year, or fourth year students. So do utilize that, and from time to time, whenever you see an opportunity popping up, apply. Okay, there's plenty of opportunities going on throughout the year. At some point of the year, there is something or the other for students to experience. Okay, even if it's not a complete freelancing program, even if there is not a requirement for a business learner, there are so many other opportunities. Stay close. My point is, stay close to the campus. Stay close to the organization, stay close to whatever is happening around you. Okay, if start getting information, be alert, and use your seniors, use your friends who are in these organizations. Okay, and I'm not just talking about Unilever. Spread your network, talk to seniors who are working in different organizations in the in the corporate sector. Understand what the requirements are. Networking really goes a long way, okay? And I mean that in the truest sense, that networking doesn't necessarily mean that you end up annoying people that you know. It's not like that. There's an art of networking as well. I won't go into that today. But the overall point I'm trying to make is stay close to the corporate world, so that when the time comes of you to make the transition from university to the corporate world, you don't get a culture shock. You don't feel like it's too sudden. If you stay close to the corporate world from the very beginning of your university life, things will come much easier to you. You'll know of opportunities more. Maybe because of some great interactions you've had with your seniors, maybe they'll end up referring you for an opportunity. That always happens. So keep your networks open. Always keep that mentality of reaching out and grabbing opportunities, so to say. If you ever see there's a need for a project, maybe it's nothing major. Maybe it's just to write an article, or maybe a biz learner is required for maybe a month or 2 months. Don't think about anything else. If you have capacity to spare, grab that opportunity. There is really no harm in learning new things, even if you're not someone. Maybe you're a finance student, hypothetically. You're a finance student, but you see an opportunity to maybe work in a marketing department. Maybe it has the skill sets that it requires, the skill sets you have. Apply for it. Don't put yourself in a silo where you think, okay, I'm a finance student, so I have to only look out for finance opportunities. Gone are those days. Okay, whenever we're assessing, and I'll cover that a little bit later, whenever we're assessing students, we rarely think about the majors they do. Okay, we think of, or we assess the person's overall competency. Okay, you may be a finance graduate, but if we see you have the right kind of skill sets to do a marketing job, we will definitely recommend you for that. Okay, so come out of that silo, network more. That will always help in identifying different opportunities as well. If you're disconnected, you will probably miss out on opportunities. So for BizLearner, for Sparks, for ULEAP, definitely stay close to the careers page. That is where you will get all the communications and deadlines and timelines and all of that.
Thank you once again for the thorough answer, right? And with regards to your answer, I think everyone has to be agile right now. So agility is something that every student needs, or every employee needs in an organization. So my next question is basically about the overall selection process of the management trainee program, or the most lucrative graduate program in Unilever. So what are the steps that a student has to go through in that role?
Okay. So first of all, maybe I won't go into a lot of details, but give you a fair idea of how it's done. Okay, so when it comes to graduate level recruitments, or mostly known as our management trainee recruitment, which is our UFLP, Unilever Future Leaders Program. So for that particular program, which is a very coveted program for us, and we have been recruiting future leaders through this program for many years now. So our selection process for this particular program is also quite robust. Okay, it's multi-layered, it has different steps, and we have this robust process to ensure that we are able to recruit the best of the best from the market. Okay, and which is why it generally has more steps than the way we would probably recruit a mid-career professional, right? The requirement is different. When we are assessing fresh graduates, the requirement is different. When we are recruiting mid-careers, the requirement is different, okay? Because we know that these mid-career people already spent a significant amount of time in getting professional experience outside. Probably they have 5 or 6 years of experience. So our assessment criteria changes a little bit when it comes to that set of people. But when it comes to management trainees or fresh graduates, we generally have a lot more steps than we normally do. Okay, so broadly speaking, we have 3 to 4 steps when it comes to management trainee recruitment process. The first step is the most important one for us, because this is the step which is basically a psychometric assessment. It helps us identify candidates who match the behavioral traits, personality, and values that Unilever looks for. So it's the most important step for us, okay? And I'll tell you why. Because as Unilever, I think our hiring philosophy is that we will hire for attitude and we will train for skills. For freshers, we will always give more importance to the attitude and secondly to the skills. Because skills we will be able to build later, but I can't really do much to change your attitude, okay? So that's our sort of the motto or hiring motto, so to say. So the first step is about the psychometric assessment, as I said, and it's a digital process. You know, we don't get to see the candidates. We don't get to know which university they're from. So we try to ensure that these steps are absolutely bias-free. Okay, which is why we leverage a lot on artificial intelligence as well. And with the way the world is moving, and you know, with the whole digital transformation, increasingly you will see more organizations coming out of the traditional or conventional way of recruitment. Gone are the days when we used to do pen and paper assessment. So these are some questions, answer on a paper. We don't do that anymore. Okay, so we are moving out of that, and not just with COVID. People might think that COVID is making us use digital tools. It's really not that. We had started this journey much long ago. We were actually ahead of the market when we first launched our digital recruitment process. Okay, so the first step is generally that it's an online process or an online assessment to give us an understanding of your psyche, of your behavioral traits. What are you good at? What are you not so good at? So that kind of a thing. The second step, after some students get shortlisted, is generally a video interview, okay? Again, this is also an interview where we don't get to interact with the students directly. Okay, to eliminate bias, we leverage on artificial intelligence. So it's a completely AI-led interview where candidates are given a case which is functional. So if you, for example, if you have applied to be a part of the GTM, go-to-market team, your case would be somewhat adapted to that. So you'll receive a case, and it's where you get to crack that case, you solve it, and you present it in front of the camera. Okay, so this is a complete video assessment, so to say, and broadly, this particular step evaluates the candidate's analytical and communication skills. Okay, how fast are you and how accurately are you able to crack the case? Okay, are you being able to, in a short time period, by the way, okay, you don't get a lot of time to do this. So it gives us that understanding of how agile the candidates are, how are they being able to leverage on whatever data they have and come up with quick decisions, your analytical ability, and of course your communication, because you will be required to present it in front of the camera, right? So these are the things that this particular step helps us evaluate. The third step is the first time where we finally get to meet the shortlisted candidates. Okay, so after 2 rounds, we are now finally meeting a set of candidates. Okay, and this is where they get to come to Unilever and experience an entire day. We call it the Discovery Center, or a day at Unilever. Okay, you spend an entire day at the office being in the life of a manager, so to say. So you get to work on real life work problems and cases, have group discussions. You get to present to the Unilever senior managers and leaders. So everything that maybe the managers already do. So to give you an experience of that. And also that step is required for us to assess candidates on their technical foundation. So those cases are a little bit harder to crack. You get a longer time to analyze those and present those to us. So it tests you on your a little bit of technical foundation and your numerical and verbal aptitude as well. So that's the major round. Actually, that's the final round. But at the end, there's always this last interview that we do with those shortlisted few people, which happens with our senior managers or the management committee, so to say. So that's the fourth step when it comes to management trainee recruitment. So it's a 4-step process, very robust, but very rewarding at the same time, because even if you don't make it through, the way this will prepare you for maybe any other assessments, anything else, any other entry level assessment that you have to take, it's just paramount. It will really prepare you well. Okay, so we always tell our candidates that even if you don't make it at the end of the 4 tiresome, grueling rounds, you must be going back with some sort of learning. And they always agree. The learning is always very rewarding. And even if you, even if you don't finally make it to the batch of management trainees we take through that program, it improves your chance of getting through other programs we have. If you have other programs like customer development trainee program, supply chain trainee program, which are not our management trainee program, but they're equally robust, and it gives you an opportunity to come and work with us as well. Okay, and this recruitment or this selection process only helps you hone your skills a little bit better.
Thank you, Apu, again for your thorough response. Now, in this regard, I would like to ask you, for a person to be a management trainee at Unilever, what are the major qualities that you look for in a candidate? I know you have already responded, mentioned few qualities. However, besides that, do you have any other qualities that you look for in these candidates?
Now, what I was saying is that I will definitely reiterate the fact that, like I said, we give a lot of importance on the behavioral aspects or the softer skills, the attitude a candidate brings, right? We definitely look for a positive attitude in our candidates, okay? Because skills are something that you can eventually build. You can groom and mold them. But if a person doesn't have the right work ethic, okay, or the learning agility, then there's not much hope. Okay, so we highly value a positive attitude in our candidates. They must be proactive go-getters. Okay, they have to have a can-do attitude. They must be team players, and they must have the agility, both in terms of learning new things and also adapting to new and different environments. Often at times, what used to happen is that we would probably recruit some fresh graduates, but we would not find them to be very adaptive or agile. Okay, whenever put out of their comfort zone, they would struggle a lot. So that's a skill I would start honing from the very beginning. Okay, try to get experiences from different aspects of life. Okay, whether you're in your university life, whether you're doing a part-time, whatever it is, don't let yourself get sort of confined in your comfort zone, because then that becomes a bit of a difficulty to break out of that once you get into corporate life. Okay, corporate life is so different from how universities are a little bit more laid back, a little bit relaxed. Corporate world is so much more faster paced. You have to always have that agile mindset that, okay, if I'm required to learn a new skill, I'll do that. If I'm required to go and do a stint in a remote region, I'll do that. Okay, so having that mindset of adapting, of being able to take on challenges and try new things, I think that is very, very important. It doesn't happen overnight. If you just have to sort of let your life experiences build this particular bit of you. And of course, once you do get into the organization will give you as much support and help needed to help you in those areas. Okay, so that's one thing. Having said that, having talked about the softer aspect, it's also important that you come with a standard level of numerical and verbal aptitude, right? You have to have a good foundation, if not a great, because that's important. I will never say that that's not important, because we don't only recruit for your attitude or your soft skills. Okay, I just meant that we prioritize that more. Okay, so yeah, coming with some level of your aptitude in terms of numerical and verbal, in terms of communication, is important. And especially when we're recruiting fresh graduates for supply chain. So whenever we're recruiting fresh engineers, so to say, they must come with a solid technical foundation. Okay, otherwise it's difficult. Even it's difficult for them. And having said that, we also have business graduates who are working in supply chain, but in the non-manufacturing side. So we have demand planners, we have supply planners, we have logistics. So some of these people are also business graduates. So we don't necessarily need engineers only to be in supply chain, because supply chain has various lanes. If you are passionate about making a career in manufacturing, you must definitely be an engineer, right? Without that, it's not going to work. But if you are a business graduate who's probably interested to build a career in supply chain, manufacturing may not be the right lane for you, but you can get exposure in other pillars, such as planning, such as logistics, such as customer service, that kind of thing, other legs of supply chain. So my point is, give immense disproportionate focus on developing yourself, developing your leadership abilities. Okay, lead teams when you have the opportunity to do that in universities. Okay, and by lead teams, I don't mean boss teams around. I mean teamwork is absolutely important, but try to take initiative, try to take lead of certain projects. Whenever there's an opportunity, take that. This will only help you when you come into the corporate world. Okay, at the same time, the other important part which I'd like to add is that never stop learning. The skills landscape is only going to keep changing. What is relevant now may become very obsolete in the next 1 year's time. So have the learning agility. Learn new skills, stay relevant. Because if you're not relevant to the future employment market, it will be a very big struggle, I can tell you right away. Okay, so invest behind new skills. You know what the new skills or the future skills are. You have to invest behind data analytics. Why don't you enroll in a course? Do a data analytics course. Know how to use Power BI. Gone are the days when everyone used to just depend on Excel. Okay, Excel is now getting replaced by Power BI in organizations. So keep your radar open to new skills, the relevant skills that are coming in, and try to pick up 1 or 2 skills. Okay, and especially in the lockdown, I mean, if you have some spare capacity, invest behind skills. Learn something new which will be relevant and which will future proof you, so that when you're going to an interview, you can say, you know what, I used 2020, the pandemic year, to acquire this certain skill. Okay, and it's a relevant skill for the organization. So that would be my last bit of advice, or the answer to your question, which is what qualities are we looking for.
Apu, I really love the last suggestion. Like, you have to have the mentality to bring out the best even out of the worst situation. So yeah, that's something I guess. So my next question regarding this would be like, what would be some of the suggestions for a student when they're preparing for like their resumes, right? Well, I guess when you sort through resumes, there are some mistakes that students make. So in a perfect resume, what are the things that students should have? And when you're sorting them out, what are the mistakes that you see generally in a lot of these documents or resumes?
Okay. So one thing I like to mention here is that, remember I told you that the way we're moving in terms of digitizing our recruitment process, we don't even get to see this. See, for management trainee or fresh graduate recruitment, we don't even get to see the CV initially. Okay, because it creates a level of bias. If I get to see which university you're from, what your CGPA is, unconsciously it creates a bias, which is why initially we don't look into the CVs. We let artificial intelligence do the job in terms of assessing whether you're the right fit in terms of your behavioral aspects. And the second round is whether you are able to crack a case and present it well. So those 2 rounds, no human interaction, so to say. But if you tell me, when do we finally get to see a CV? At the end. I'm only talking about management trainee recruitment, by the way. There are different ways of doing that, and I'll touch upon that. For management trainees, we only get to see the CV at the very end, when the candidates, when it's time for the shortlisted candidates to come to the discovery center, or the day-long assessment, so to say. So what do we look for then? By then, you're already part of that pool. So seeing your CV will not really, make me change my decision about you being there. So you're already there. Now, what will help you is that when you're crafting that CV, and of course, there is always going to be that last round, whichever organization you go to, whatever kind of recruitment process you go through, there's always generally a last round, which is the interview, right? Which is an interview with someone senior in the organization who assesses you also based on your CV. So the CV is there, and then the recruiter or the interviewer refers to that to ask you relevant questions. So that step generally is always there. Okay. So for that, my recommendation would be that, by then the assessor would have already seen you through multiple steps, how you perform, what you do. So what good will the CV then do? What do we see in that CV then? Okay. So first of all, I'm just speaking from my own experience. What I see is that people tend to put in a lot of extracurricular activities. Okay, so there's a lot of quantity, but not a lot of quality. What we are looking for is depth. Okay, if you really say you're passionate about sports, there must be things in your CV to back that up. Okay, did you win anything? Where are you part of any national team or what? When you say sports is your passion and this is something you absolutely do with discipline, what are the examples of that? We need to have evidence of that. Even if you don't capture it in your CV, you must be able to talk about it in the interview. What we don't like is when students maybe list down 5 or 6 things they love doing, but when you go into depth, it's quite shallow. So we're looking for depth. If you really think your reading is your passion and this is something you want to put in your CV, then be prepared. If the interviewer asks you what the last book was that you read and what did you learn from that, and you are unable to answer, that's just absolutely, it's going to go downhill from there. So my first tip is be mindful of what you're putting in your resume. Okay, because if the interviewer decides to dig deeper into the CV and ask you questions based on that, make sure you put only things that are credible. Don't put things which maybe you have done once in your life and you decided to put in the CV. Don't do that, okay? Only put things which you're truly good at, which you've truly invested your time and effort behind in your university life. And it could be anything. And don't think, sports niye likhbo CV te. No, it's really not like that. Sports is a great extracurricular to have. But we need to see that you have done this with passion and you have maintained a discipline in doing so. That's what we're looking for. The idea is not to find out a good sports person for the organization. The idea is to see that if this is your area of passion, have you been doing this with discipline? Have you been practicing it? Have you been pursuing it? Because it then tells me a lot about you as a person. So interviewer হয়তো একটা question করতে পারে, but their assessment from your answer is going to be very different from what you think it is. You may give a very basic answer. Yes, I love doing sports. I used to go and practice football every morning. Maybe to you the answer is just as simple as that, but to the assessor, what they're now thinking is great, everyday practice, disciplined, okay, passion to pursue, adaptability. So that kind of an assessment always happens in the back of the assessor's head. So be prepared when it comes to then CV writing. Only keep things that make you a credible, authentic candidate. Don't fluff it up. Okay, that's number one. Number two is, of course, talk about new skills you have. If you have gotten a certification, if you've done a LinkedIn Learning certification, include that, because like I said, skills are going to become so important. What skills do you have? So highlight more on that. Okay. Previously, what happened was when you had and I'm not talking about the new normal of COVID. It'll be slightly different when I go to that. But previously, people used to talk about maybe doing, club activities for universities, arranging an event, business competitions, and so forth. But with the new normal, and you know that we might not be doing these sort of things anytime soon. We probably will not be doing a club event or organizing anything soon. So how do you then address that? What do you do to make your resume a robust one? Like I said, invest in skills, and of course, reach out and have an open eye on different opportunities. You don't need physical presence to be doing a freelancing job or grasping an opportunity that has come up. There are plenty of freelancing websites, by the way. Check those out. If something interests you, do that and put those in your CV. So there are other ways of making your resume robust as well. It's not necessarily that এখন আমাদের university specific কিছু activities কমে যাচ্ছে because of COVID. So now we don't have anything to sort of replace those with. That's not true at all. In fact, the opportunity is even more. Okay, because now you have some time to do a lot of self-learning. So start putting those in your resume. whatever you're doing on your own. Okay, maybe a course you've done, maybe you've enrolled in, I don't know, evening MBA or whatever it is. Opportunity and time and space for you to do a lot of self-learning. So those should come into your CV, because even employers are not so insensitive that even in this situation they will look for club activities. Of course, no one will do that. What they will look at is how you have utilized this time. Okay, how you've been able to sort of do something that is productive for you. So that is the shift in how the COVID will change the whole aspect of creating a nice resume.
Thank you, Apu, once again for being so thorough. My next question on the same line would be, like, you have given us suggestions regarding resume. So what are the suggestions that you would like to give for a candidate to do well in interviews and as well as in the discovery center? Because as far as I know, many organizations have assessment centers or discovery center like activities in the selection process. So what would be your suggestion regarding that as well?
Okay, so I'll start with interviews, because I'll come to discovery centers and I'll tell you why it will not be the traditional, conventional discovery center anymore, because the whole point of discovery center was that you come in and you experience the organization, you experience Unilever, you move around the office and see all of that. So that's not going to happen. So even we are in the process of sort of identifying or re-strategizing on how to land discovery centers, or how our UFLP recruitment is going to look like in the current context. That's something we are anyways working on. But if I just spend a little bit time on interviews itself, of course, nothing changes when it comes to interviews. Okay, the way you would have interviewed in person is the same thing. It's a video interview, nothing else. In fact, like I said, Unilever wasn't waiting for COVID to do video interviews. We've been doing that for the last few years. Okay, so we are fairly confident and we can run video interviews very smoothly. From the candidate's perspective, what can you do to be prepared? See, one thing is, anyways, it's a nerve-wracking experience for students. Okay, if you're physically there, it's probably even more nerve-wracking, because they get to see your body language from head to toe. In video, you're probably just showing your face. So think about the bright side also. Okay, it's less nerve-wracking that way. However, there are challenges, because when you're doing a video interview, so many things can go wrong. Okay, your internet connection may give up on you. Okay, there may be, because you're doing this interview from home, there will be so much distraction. Maybe someone comes in, calling will baja gelo. So what do you do then? Okay, so I would like to tackle a little bit about that as well. So when it comes to interviewing in the new normal, when we're doing video interviews, first of all, don't get frazzled. Everyone is in the same situation. Even the employers are probably taking your interview from home. So allow distractions to happen. It's completely fine. If someone rings the bell of your door, just say, may I? If there's no one else, you can always say that, may I be excused, and I'll just need to cater to something. Be confident in the sense that the employers are human beings. They are also under the same same situation. They understand what you are in which setup you're trying to give this interview. So flexibility will always be there, unless it's, of course, a very rigid organization who has no empathy whatsoever. Number of those organizations will be very few. Most organizations will be very empathetic and understanding. It's a different environment to do an interview, so they'll be more flexible and open. Okay, now coming to that was the new normal bit affecting your interviews. Now coming to the actual interview itself, how can you prepare yourself well? Of course, whichever organization you're interviewing in, you must have a knowledge check on that. Okay, you shouldn't come to the interview not prepared. There are always company websites, so do your bit of preliminary research on what the company does. If it's an organization like Unilever who sells products, produces and sells products, be sure to know that what kind of, or how many brands we have, our basic information, how many manufacturing sites we have. So the basic information which are always there in the website, nothing beyond that. Okay, so that will definitely help. So come with a appreciation of the organization. Don't come blank. Okay, number two would be come with an appreciation of yourself. Number one, know the organization. Number two, know yourself. Okay. If you come to the interview without having reflected on yourself, you will flounder. And by reflect, I mean have Have a go at articulating what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. Think of potential questions that the recruiter might give and have mock answers prepared for those. Go through that, because interview, even though it's spontaneous, interviews should be spontaneous, that you respond to the interviewer as and when they're asking you a question and you modify your answers accordingly. At the same time, it should not also be coming from blank space. You have to have some level of preparation before that. Okay, know your content, but figure out how you want to answer in the interview itself. So that is how you're spontaneous, but at the same time you're not saying a lot of things that don't make sense. So that's my number 2 suggestion, that get to really know yourself best before you come to an interview. Okay, of course I could go into so many details about interviews, but I don't think now is the forum or the time to do that. But when you're doing that self-reflection, try to think of both, because there will always be the generic question from all interviews, what your weaknesses are. And when it's easy to answer what your strengths are, I think we often flounder with weakness. Okay, so one trick from a recruiter's point of view is that always try to frame a weakness which is first of all real, don't make things up. Okay, but at the same time, whenever you're answering a question which is on weakness, always try to add an extra aspect of telling the interviewer how you're working on it to address that. Simple. That's the strategy. If you say that time management is my issue, don't just leave your conversation to that. Time management is my issue. Always end with that, okay, time management is my issue. I recognize that, which is why I actively do these things to help me to mitigate that weakness. So for weaknesses, you must always try to give the interviewer a confidence that yes, first of all, you acknowledge your weakness. Second of all, you're taking the necessary measures to work on it. Okay, that always helps. So that was one. এরকম আরো অনেক tips I can give, but I don't think we have the time to do that. Thirdly, if I say broad tip for an interview would be, of course, presentability is there. Okay, and now with the whole webcam and virtual interview thing, it's difficult to perhaps do that, but do what you would have otherwise done for an interview. Dress up like that. Okay, just because you're at a home setting, don't be in home clothes. So dress up accordingly. Okay, just the way you would have presented face to face. Keep yourself distractionless as much as possible. Be in a quiet room, good bandwidth. Okay, less noise. Okay, keep a glass of water, maybe a notepad to take notes. Important to take notes. Important to ask your interviewer questions. And whenever you flounder with anything, if you don't know the answer to a question, always say, sir, ma'am, I cannot answer that question with my limited knowledge. I don't want to say something that's not accurate, which is why I'm sorry, I'm not being able to. So honesty is key. Just for the sake of answering, don't go on and answer and say things which will do more damage than good. If you really don't know something, be honest and say, I cannot answer. That always has a more positive effect than trying to address that question. Okay, so that's my other input. And lastly, be true to yourself, be authentic. Really don't make things about yourself. Be as authentic and genuine as possible. Make the interviewer see the real you. Okay, and your purpose, what really excites you, what you love doing. So that kind of a thing. Okay, because as soon as, like I said, and I have covered this initially as well, if you have probably maybe read one book in your life, please don't say that I love reading books, because you will get caught. Okay, they will dig deep into this and you will get caught, and you don't want that. If you don't like reading books, if you don't like sports, if all you love doing is movies, it's completely fine. Say that you love watching movies. Have a conversation about that. My point is, be authentic, because as soon as you say something which is not true to yourself, I can guarantee you that the seasoned assessors will always catch you, and it's never a good experience once they do. Okay, so that's just my last bit of sort of advice for interviews.
Thank you, Apu, again for your suggestions regarding interviews. That was really, really thorough, and I guess the students will be really happy to get a lot of suggestions on this regard. Now we are at the very end, so I have two last short questions. So number one is, say a candidate gets selected as a management trainee in the at Unilever. So once a person gets in, so what are the training opportunities for that person to even grow further?
Okay, so I want to just specify this answer to management trainees. I'll give you an overall answer, okay, because it applies for anyone who's coming into Unilever. Of course, management trainee program itself has opportunities like, an international exposure, working in different functions, in stints, so that kind of a thing. But overall, I would like to say, in very brief, that we are known to be the school of leaders. I don't know if you've heard of this term or are acquainted with this, but we are known to be the school of leaders. What does it mean? We have a history of grooming and creating leaders in the market. Yeah, and that was only possible by making Unilever a learning organization. For us, Unilever still seems like a university, by the way, because there's so much we learn each and every single day just by doing things, not pen and paper. By doing, we are learning so much, and every day is a learning experience. Okay, we proudly say that we are a learning organization. Okay, and I think all our employees would agree to that we place disproportionate focus on learning and developing oneself. There are so many opportunities and platforms to do that. Okay, so I won't go into details of that, but I'm just giving you that confidence that I don't think there is any other organization who places so much importance on learning. It's paramount of how much flexible we are towards learning. If an employee wants to, there are so many employees who want to do their side by side, they want to also do their masters or their MBA. Unilever is so flexible towards that. You need some day off to study for your course, by all means go and do that. So there has been no instances where employees wanted to learn something, study something outside of the organization, but were asked not to. Okay, we encourage rather, if you want to do an MBA while you're working, please do that. If you need some time off to study for that, for your exam, please do that. So learning not only within the organization, but also self-learning. If you want to keep studying, keep learning, we will always facilitate that for you. So that's a really beautiful part of or a beautiful aspect of Unilever, I would say. Now coming to the learning opportunities for management trainee, just to put it in a nutshell, of course, they all undergo a very robust induction or a boot camp, so to say, before they get into the actual work. It involves them in understanding the business first, the Unilever business first. It helps them understand each function. What does marketing do? What does finance do? What does a supply chain do? So getting a very broad overview of all functions. So induction is robust. It's a month-long process. And then, of course, the way the management trainees learn is that they undergo various stints. Even if you're a finance management trainee, you must be in a field stint. You have to know how sales work. Okay, so you do a sales stint in a region, okay, and then you do your core finance stints, okay, for 6 months, and then you also do some smaller stints to learn about marketing, to learn about Unilever Sustainable Living Plan, to learn about any other area. So the way the management trainee program is designed is that the stints are there to give you a holistic business learning. It doesn't only focus on your function, it gives you an overall learning. Okay, so that is how the 15-month-long management trainee program is designed. Essentially, the entire 15-month is segregated into different stints where you get various learning. And of course, there is an international exposure. We've had that for our previous batches. But, with the current context where travel is going to be limited, we are looking into different ways of giving exposure. Even here, we don't require to be physically traveling in order to be part of a global project. Our employees are part of many global projects. So with the new normal, if situation requires us to be part of global projects and contribute to global projects, sitting here, we will do that until situation improves. Okay, so we will do exactly what needs to be done. But what will not get compromised on is the overall learning curve for the management trainees. Okay, if it's not the whole novelty of traveling to a country and being a part of a different culture, I know it's a shame. It's a drawback in this current situation. But at the same time, if you are able to get that kind of a learning, just sitting here, being part of a collaborative global team, being part of maybe a brand launch that's happening in the UK headquarters, sitting right here, then why not? So those kind of experiences and learning opportunities we try to ingrain in this 15-month long. Of course, it's intertwined with a lot of mentoring sessions. Okay, each management trainee gets some senior mentor throughout their journey who takes ownership and sort of responsibility of their overall learning. Each stint has its tutor. So if you're doing a finance stint, you'll have a finance tutor. If you're doing a customer development stint, you'll have a customer development tutor. So it's very robust, honestly. I mean, there's no opportunity for you to not learn. Even if you don't want to learn, you'll end up learning. That's how the whole program is designed.
Any last piece of advice for the students? I know you have been really, really thorough in answering all the different questions that I asked you. So before we end the discussion, any last piece of advice or words for the students of this course?
Okay, no, thanks for having me. I hope this was helpful. I mean, I've tried to give you an overview, honestly, because there's so much work that goes behind it, but I hope I did justice to this, and I hope you're able to take out some value out of this session. But I think the last bit of advice for everyone would be, and it's mostly because, you know, we're currently in a situation where, you know, we are not being able to do things the conventional way. Okay, I think students are under a little bit of discomfort or anxiety of what their future looks like. Okay, and you know, a lot of employers might not be employing. So I think there's a general anxiety around it. Okay, and also some people are sitting at home. Maybe their graduation timeline got postponed and all of that. So my last bit of advice is around that. Okay, even if you are at home, don't stress yourself out completely thinking about what happens. Rather use the current time, the present time to doing things that will ultimately help you in future, to make you more employable, to make you more fit for being employed. So I would reiterate on that skills part, but at the same time, don't let that consume you, that, oh my God, I have to learn 5 new skills in 5 months. Not like that. Have a vision. What do you want to do? Start acquiring those skills, start taking those classes, sign up for an online course, get certified on something. Okay, but at the same time, it's important to do things that really ignite your own like passion and purpose. Okay, this is the time. I don't think we will ever get that opportunity to reignite some of the old lost habits, so to say. So invest behind your personal purpose as well. Do things that make you happy, because, you know, at the end of the day, you have to really take care of your mental and physical well-being in this time, and in this time of crisis. Nothing is more important than that. Okay, recruitment, selection, all of that can wait unless you're able to take care of your mental well-being. Of course, physical well-being is there, but unless you're able to take care of your mental well-being, nothing else will eventually matter in the long run. Okay, so do things that help you cope with the current stress that everyone is under. At the same time, learn skills, learn new skills, stay close to the corporate world, stay close to your seniors, your peers, your family members who are working, look out for opportunities, give them a note that if you ever have any internship opportunity, please flag it to me. I would love to do a virtual internship. Okay, so, and that goes for all kinds of organization. I'm not even talking about Unilever. In fact, many of the things I was telling you guys today are not Unilever specific. It's just general employment and general advice I would have given to anyone, honestly. But if you are interested to work for Unilever, then like I said, stay close to the careers page. We often have recruitments. We often have BizLearner hirings. You know, sign up for those and get an opportunity and work with us. Yeah, so that's just all I'll say. Even I understand that we hire management trainees in a small bunch. It's not like we recruit 50 management trainees, right? It's always going to be that small group who are thoroughly assessed, and that, you know, that sort of the best of the best. But at the same time, we have so many other opportunities. Try those out. Okay, like I said, we have CD Trainee, which is our customer development trainee program. We have GET, which is our graduate engineering trainee program. So these opportunities are there. It's not only management trainee program through which we take in graduates. We have other opportunities as well. So get an understanding of that. Get the information from the website, get the information from the careers page, and then reach out whenever whenever there's a call to action from the group that now you're recruiting, then definitely sign up accordingly.
Thank you so much, Apu. It was really wonderful talking to you after so long. And trust me, it was really a wonderful session, a lovely session, and most importantly, it was a thorough session. So I wish I could have you face to face in the class. All right, it was so thorough. So yes, thank you once again, and hopefully I would get to taste your baking skills again very soon once the pandemic is over. So yeah,
Sure.
thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks to you as well. And to the students, I wish all of you all the very best. Stay well. Like I said, that's the most important bit. Stay well, stay safe, take care of your well-being, and yeah, keep investing behind yourself. It will take you a long way. Invest behind yourself. That's all I have to say. Thanks, everyone.